Hello and welcome to the 2021-2022 Super App session titled Supporting Student Wellbeing for Urgent Intervention Required for Disciplined Schools. I am Lisa French, Director of the Division of Student Wellbeing in the Office of Equity, Inclusion, and Opportunities. In today's session, participants will learn how the department will support UIR-D schools to improve student well-being. Participants will also gain an understanding of the Super App question pertinent to UIR-D schools. The Super App timeline is as follows. November 6, 2020, Super App and school system planning resources are released. February 5th, 2021, Super App is submitted to the Department of Education by school systems. March 2021, the department provides feedback to school systems on alignment to CIR or UIR academics, approval, and funding requirements. Also in the month of March 2021, school systems will submit revised Super App to the department as applicable. And followed by April of 2021, competitive funding allocations will be submitted to BESI for approval. All Super App launch materials can be found on the department website in the School Improvement Library, and all session presentation recordings can be found by clicking on the image on the website title 2021-2022 Super App Launch View Now. The objectives of today's Super App launch session are to review the 2021-2022 Super App focus area for UIR-D schools and to provide an overview regarding the support the department will provide UIR-D schools in the current academic year in preparation for submission of UIR-D Super App response. Today's session agenda will include 6 topics. We will start with discussing a problem of practice, followed by sharing with you the vision and focus areas for student well-being. Then we will transition to discuss why cultural competence matters within the work of student well-being, followed by a discussion of the 2021-2022 Super App Planning Framework. Then a discussion of the vendors, specifically the student well-being vendors and the funding opportunity that exists for UIR-D schools. And we will close by sharing with you the support the department will provide UIR-D schools this year in preparing their Super App responses. Beginning with the problem of practice. We know that a disengaged student in the learning environment is oftentimes due to a lack of emotional, behavioral, social, and school well-being. Student disengagement oftentimes leads to disruptive behavior, which leads to out-of-school suspension. In 2018 and 19, Louisiana students missed a total of 30,259 days of instruction due to out-of-school suspensions. This represents over 180,000 hours of missed instruction, or 168 school years of lost learning. Now I will share with you how the vision and 3 focus areas of the work of student well-being connects to UIR-D schools. Student well-being. The Division of Student Well-Being exists to support schools in properly caring for the social, emotional, behavioral, and mental health needs of all students. The vision for student well-being is that students will engage in a safe, supportive, and equitable learning environment that promotes positive relationships and develops the social emotional skills as well as agency of our students that leads to personal and academic success. In order to achieve this vision, school leaders, teachers, and staff should prioritize 3 focus areas. The first is positive intentional relationships that are facilitated by meaningful interactions to create strong, authentic relationships in both the classroom and throughout the school building. The second focus area is attending to individual student needs by providing all students with individualized supports and services to meet their social, emotional, and behavioral health needs. Thirdly, the focus area is to respond to student behavior with appropriate support, which can be achieved by addressing policies and practices that will ensure students receive appropriate support. Why cultural competence? Why does cultural competence matter in the work of supporting student well-being? According to Chris Dyer, the 2020 Louisiana State Teacher of the Year, and I quote, "It is the moral responsibility of a culturally responsive teacher in a position of privilege to advocate for all learners, regardless of race, gender, sexuality, class, culture, sex, citizenship status, ability, body type, or any other indicator that has been used to marginalize. Providing students with the platform to showcase their unique abilities and experiences is vital to making students visible and narrowing the opportunity gaps." Additionally, the National Education Association describes cultural competence as having an awareness of one's own cultural identity and views about difference, and the ability to learn and build on the varying cultural and community norms of students and their families. Louisiana has the opportunity, based on our student demographics as profiled in the table on your slide, to build the capacity of all educators to bring the relevance of cultural identity and differences into the learning environment from a place of value and belonging to provide students the unique support they require to be successful personally and academically. Currently, Louisiana serves over 750,000 students, and of those students, 56% are minority students. The minority population includes 43% African American, 8% Hispanic, 3% multiple races, non-Hispanic, 2% Asian, and 1% American Indian. Additionally, 71% of students in Louisiana are economically disadvantaged, which brings other cultural challenges into the classroom. Also, Louisiana students are made up of 51% male students and 49% female students, while Louisiana has an English learner population of 4% students. Clearly, we can see from these demographics that Louisiana has a diverse student population and the opportunity to seize building the capacity of cultural competence in all educators. Now we will transition to discuss the 2021-2022 UIR-D Super App Planning Framework. The framework includes 4 major areas. Those are the domain, the focus area and indicator, the question, and guidance to support answering the question. There are 4 domains that encompass the department's most important priorities. Those domains are core academics, students with diverse needs, workforce talent, and LEA systems. The next area of the framework is focus area and indicator, which for UIR-D, the focus area is student well-being. The third area of the planning framework is the questions school systems will be required to answer in an effort to make key decisions connected to each indicator in Super App. The fourth and final area of the school system planning framework is guidance. Each question in Super App is supported by 3 forms of guidance as applicable. Guidance on how to respond to the question, guidance on formulating a competitive funding request, and useful resources for planning a response. Now we will discuss the 4 areas of the school system planning framework that are specific to supporting student well-being for UIR-D. The domain, again, is students with diverse needs, while the focus area is student well-being, and the indicator is that students will engage in a positive, inclusive, and culturally responsive learning environment that develops social, emotional, and academic skills to cultivate personal agency and lifelong success. The question is, which vendor have you selected to provide either unconscious bias, culturally responsive teaching, culturally responsive leadership, or diversity, equity, and inclusion training for your staff at schools with a UIR-D label as outlined in the Student Wellbeing Vendor Guide. The guidance to support answering that question of which vendor have you selected to provide cultural competence training is, in order to be eligible for competitive funding to support UIR-D schools, school systems should identify a vendor from the Student Wellbeing Vendor Guide, which they will partner with to provide training and professional development at UIR-D schools. Additionally, for guidance, school systems may request up to $9,000 of competitive funding per UIR-D school to access unconscious bias training or culturally responsive training, culturally responsive leadership training, or diversity, equity, and inclusion training. Lastly, all school systems will provide an assurance committing to each UIR-D school leadership team attending a series of LDOE-led professional development trainings, including Teacher Leader Summit, and participate in regular review meetings with the Department of Education. I will now provide you with more information about the vendors who will support UIR-D schools. UIR-D schools will select a vendor from the Student Wellbeing Vendor Guide. There are 4 vendors that have been identified from the vendor guide who will support the work of UIR-D schools to develop the cultural competence of all school staff. There are 4 training topics. Each UIR-D school will be able to select along with the selection of a vendor to provide professional development in that area of the training topic. The 4 vendors are Franklin Covey, who will provide training in unconscious bias, Scholastic, who will provide training in 3 areas, culturally responsive teaching, culturally responsive leadership, and equity, The Best Man Company, LLC, who will provide training in culturally responsive leadership, and Third Way Solution, also known as Discipline Revolution Project, who will provide training in equity framework. As shared previously, in sharing with you the guidance for UIR-D schools, school systems may request up to $9,000 of competitive funding per UIR-D school for unconscious bias, culturally responsive teaching, culturally responsive leadership, or diversity, equity, and inclusion training. Super App support. The Division of Student Wellbeing will provide support to all UIR-D school systems by hosting 4 virtual vendor engagements from November to January to present 1 student wellbeing vendor during each monthly call. The dates of the monthly student wellbeing call that will support Super App planning are November 9th, November 18th, December 9th, and January 20th. All 4 monthly calls will be at 3:30 p.m. on the dates as provided on the slide. Participants that should attend the monthly calls include UIR-D school leadership team members, supervisors of school improvement, supervisors of elementary or middle or high school, supervisor of student services or student programs or student life, supervisor of child welfare and attendance, and supervisor of pupil appraisal. In closing, this slide contains Super App support information. All Super App launch presentations and recordings can be accessed via our school improvement library, which is linked on this slide. Please note that during the months of November, December, and January, regularly scheduled team monthly calls and office hours will provide opportunities for school system leaders to learn more about specific sections, ask questions, and receive guidance. New this year, the department will offer Super App planning support calls beginning in December, where teams can request one-on-one targeted guidance and support with planning, completing the workbook, and aligning funding to priorities. Please contact the following email address with questions: LDOE, grants, helpdesk@la.gov. Thank you for attending the Super App session today, entitled 2021-2022, Supporting Student Wellbeing, UIR-D. Have a great day.